And particularly, I get a lot of criticism from the left, from people who are like, why does she have MAGA people on the show? And it's like, well, you should know what they're saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Because just so you know, half the country voted for Trump and for Trumpism. And it's not helpful to be completely unaware of what is happening in those media ecosystems. His willingness to just take some of these ideas the Democrats have been talking about and just do them, no matter how controversial they are, has been one of the things that, whether you like him or not, what people will say about Trump is that he does what he says. And I think that Democrats, one of the big problems that they have is that voters don't think they're going to do what they say.
That's a fact.
They say all the right things, but they don't think they're going to do what they say. And so whether it's challenging, you can call it challenging capitalism or challenging whatever, voters want to know that you're willing to buck the system for them. And I think Trump does that right now in a way that really like shakes people up and makes people really mad. But that is also why a lot of voters, whether they like him or not, they will describe him as effective.
Let's go back to CNN, and polling expert Harry Enton had more bad news for their lefty losing it audience.
You might think, given that the Republicans are in charge of both the House and the Senate, that a government shutdown might actually hurt the Republican brand. But in fact, it hasn't. If anything, it's been helped a little bit. Take a look here, the shift in net popularity versus pre-shutdown. When we're looking at the Republican Party overall, that brand actually up 2 points. That's within the margin of error, but clearly it hasn't dropped. Come over to this side of the screen. Look at the net approval ratings for Republicans in Congress. It's actually up 5 points since pre-shutdown. So what we're seeing here is the Republican brand in Congress has actually improved somewhat compared to where we were pre-shutdown, despite the fact that Republicans control. And that's the math that John Thune and Mike Johnson are looking at.
Yes, Republicans and independents are not blaming the Republicans for Schumer's shutdown. That's good news for the midterms for some.
It's rallying the base for sure. Look at this, the net approval rating up 12 points versus pre-shutdown. But it's not just with the base. It's also with the middle of the electorate. Look at this, among independents. It's up 8 points as well. So we've got a situation here where Republicans with the shutdown are actually rallying their base, but it's also something that's not hurting them with the folks in the middle. If anything, it's helping them with folks in the middle. And this is the type of math that if you're Republicans, you like to see, right?
Yes, the math is mathing, but what is the shutdown doing to the Democrats' chances at the midterms?
So how do Democrats, how are they positioned right now?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, the generic congressional ballot, which traditionally Democrats have done really well on, and if you look at this point back when Trump was president the first time around, Democrats are up 11 points. Look at where it is now. Democrats are ahead, but they're actually only up 3 points. This is, in fact, the worst position Democrats have been on in a generic ballot at this point in midterm when there was a Republican president in the last 20 years. And this is no different from pre-shutdown. So Republicans aren't losing on this metric either. They become more popular, and they're actually in a pretty good position for them historically when it comes to the generic congressional ballot.
This is a concerning number for Democrats, are you saying?
This is a concerning number for Democrats because it's considerably worse than they traditionally do in midterm elections when there's a Republican president.
Harriet.
Oh, dear. Let's bring in documentary filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, the shutdown isn't hurting Trump, not with the base, and just as importantly, it's not hurting him with independents.
No, it's not. In fact, the Democratic brand is so low that they're actually bucking history. Historically, the government in charge is always blamed for the shutdown, but that's not the case here. This is, I mean, what do you want? The Democrats have voted 13 times to keep the government shut down. And frankly, look, you listen to Chuck Schumer and what he's saying when he's decrying the shutdown. What does he point to as a problem? He points to Trump helping out Milei in Argentina. Really, that's a problem? Milei is reshaping the Argentinian economy into a free market economy for the first time as a light to the entire region that they will follow. That's a problem? He talked about Trump dancing in Malaysia. Yeah, he was in Malaysia cutting deals left and right. He was in Asia brokering a peace deal between Thailand and Cambodia that is 100 years old. That's an older conflict than Israel and the Palestinians. Yeah, that's what he's doing, and that's what the Democrats are decrying as a problem with this shutdown. And by the way, the coalition of the Democratic Party, which has been strong so far, is now fraying. There's a federal union that is now telling the Democrats, you guys better stop this soon. This is being a problem for us. And at the end of the next week, 41 million people will stop receiving food SNAP benefits, which is food stamp benefits. By the way, 41 million people on food stamps, that in of itself is a massive problem. That's where we stand right now, Rita.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a problem. I think that's something that deserves a national discussion. I mean, there's something very sick in the country when you've got that many people dependent on food stamps to feed their families. Now, let's go to your beloved New York, where leftist rabbis are campaigning for Zohran Mamdani. Yes, they are.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi. We're among the thousands of Jewish New Yorkers who've been out door knocking and phone banking to elect Zohran Mamdani. We're also rabbis.
We know Zohran will fight to make our city affordable and safe for our families.
And for our neighbors of all faiths and backgrounds.
As Jews, as rabbis, as New Yorkers, we believe that all people deserve to thrive. Zohran agrees.
Ah, dear me. Zohran agrees. What percentage of the Jewish community do you think is backing Zohran Mamdani? He's made some radical comments, and these radical comments aren't ancient history. They're very, very recent indeed.
Hi, Rabbi. I mean, Rita, you're more of a rabbi than they are. One of them literally said they don't believe in God, okay? Okay.
Yeah.
What rabbinical school did they go to exactly? That was so cringy. That was for the first time I saw it, I thought it was a Saturday Night Live skit, but I knew Saturday Night Live wouldn't do an anti-Mamdani video, so it couldn't be that. It had to be real. Yeah, look, I'm ashamed to say that if you look at the last three polls, 33%, on average, 33% of Jews in New York will vote for Mamdani. That is completely and utterly shameful. Maybe even more shameful is that when you're listening to this video and they go through all the reasons why they're supporting Mamdani, they didn't mention a single Jewish issue, right? This is, and by the way, that 33% is driven by mostly, like you saw in that video, young women, as I call the Yenta class. But I feel like if you're going to be Jewish, say you're supporting Mamdani, maybe bring up some Jewish issues. I don't know. Why don't you bring up an issue that Mamdani literally said that while the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's laced by the IDF. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you go as a Jew, whenever I hear that, I go, oh, whatever I hear next is going to be horrible and terrible, and that's a perfect example of what we're talking about.